Hello and welcome back everyone to another pre-recorded lesson video. Today we are going over lesson 3 today. If you have not watched the lesson videos for lesson 1 and lesson 2, please go back and watch those. Those are in the 111 folder and the 112 folder. They're pretty important lessons because that's when we actually start the play or the book for the first time, and I give a brief summary over it. So please make sure you're keeping up with the lesson or the pre-recorded lesson videos or attending the live virtual class, right? We basically do the same thing for both. It's just in the virtual class, I do get the students in there to participate in the chat, and it seems like they're learning a little bit more um, in the chat. I feel like attending the class is pretty helpful. So if you have time, attend the virtual class whenever you can. But if not, I understand. Just watch the pre-recorded lesson videos. But for today, lesson 3, we are going to be focusing on the same questions or the same focusing question again. The focusing question is, how do the characters in A Midsummer's Night Dream understand love? Remember, love is a really important thing. That is what the essential question for the entire module is. Remember, the essential question is, what is love, right? And the content framing question for lesson 3 is, what does a deeper exploration of character relationships reveal? So we're going to be looking into the relationships of the characters today, but we're mostly going to be focusing on Lysander and Hermia because they're the biggest romance in the book so far, right? So let's get started. So the learning goal for today is you're going to be able to explain how Hermia and Lysander's predicament exemplifies Lysander's description of love. So we're going to be looking at Hermia and Lysander's relationship and all the trouble that they're going to, and we're going to be looking at a quote that Lysander says about what their current situation and what love is supposed to be. Okay, and don't worry about the work time expectation for this one. Just make sure at the end of this you keep up with both the assignments I've uploaded already. Okay. So before we start, I want y'all to brainstorm and come up with a list of love stories that you've seen or heard, right? It could be any movies about love, any stories you've heard, any books you've read, or even any music you've listened to that have to do with love and um, and that being like the most important part of the story, right? Come up with a list, brainstorm as much as you can, and then um, I will share my list as well. So my list of I'm mostly focusing on movies for my examples, right? So my list that I've come up with are these 3 movies, right? Um, Romantic movies or romantic comedies or rom-coms, right? They're my favorite genre of music, of movies. I'm not the biggest fan of like action movies or scary movies, anything like that. I love a really romantic or sad movie, right? So The Notebook, The Fault in Our Stars, and The Vow, right? I cried watching all 3 of these movies. I absolutely love these movies. I just watched The Notebook today. Absolutely love these movies, and they all have to deal with love, right? And the main thing that all of these 3 movies focus on is love, but also the conflict or the problems that the main characters go through during their relationship, right? So I want y'all to think about this question. And the question is, why do you think love stories are often organized around conflicts and problems, right? Why do they always have a problem that the couple has to face, right? Why do they always face obstacles, right? So think about that and hopefully you come up with some answers because some of the stuff that I came up with is that sometimes conflicts and problems can be a way to show differences between who the lover chooses as like a mate, as a relationship partner, and who others think is a suitable mate. Right? So you may love somebody, but other people in your life may think that another person is better for you. That being friends, family, other outside forces, right? And some examples of movies that have that are The Notebook, Romeo, Juliet, and this play that we're reading as well, right? Hermia loves Lysander, but her father wants her to marry Demetrius, right? Another reason why love stories always have conflict or problems is that conflict and problems can be a way to show problems with the way society thinks about love. So the world as a whole and how they think about love. And conflicts and problems can really help show how society thinks about love. Some movie examples of that is Beauty and the Beast, right? Belle loves the Beast, but the village doesn't like the Beast, right? And the last example I came up with is that conflicts and problems can be a way to bring people together and show how they fall in love, right? conflicts and problems, a lot of relationships go through problems, and sometimes they get out of those problems together and they come out stronger, right? And the conflicts and problems could be a part of the journey and is a very important part of the journey. And a big movie example of that is The Fault in Our Stars, right? Both of the main characters in The Fault in Our Stars have cancer, and they meet in a support group that help the young kids deal with the cancer they have, and that's how they meet, and that's how they fall in love, right? They fall in love through their common problems, and that's a good way for conflict and problems to really bring a couple together. Okay, and that's basically what we're going to be focusing on today: are the conflicts and the problems that Lysander and Hermia face. Right. So what I did for us to examine the play, because I know it's harder for virtual students, right, to look at the play and read it, especially with how hard the text is. So what I did is in today's folder, I uploaded 2 pages for the play, left side being the original text and the right side being the modern text. Okay. So I uploaded this, and this is basically the lines that we're going to be focusing on. It's still scene 1 or act 1, scene 1, but this one is basically Lysander and Hermia just talking about their relationship, right? So some of the lines, Lysander is basically saying, what's going on? Why are you crying? Everything's going to be fine, right? And this is where Lysander comes up with the plan to run away together, right? Lysander decides to come up with this plan because he thinks love is very spontaneous, it's very impulsive, and you can't think, right? You have to act if you think that you have found the one, right? So Lysander says, hey, I know we're in a bad situation, but all love is tough, right? He says right here in this line, the course of true love never did run smooth. So that's basically saying, hey, true love always faces obstacles. True love, it's always going to be hard. It's never going to be easy, right? And Hermia says the lines that she basically says in this scene that, hey, it's our destiny as a couple to face obstacles. She says every couple in the world, no matter what, when they're in a relationship, they will always face obstacles because it's their destiny. And destiny basically means that you're meant to do something. You're meant to face something, right? You can't avoid it. It's your destiny, right? And Hermia basically says it's their destiny as a couple and every couple in the world to have problems, right? So I want you to read that play. It's only going to take you a little bit, or you can watch this video version of it and just follow along, right? So I basically clipped this video to only play the parts where Lysander and Hermia are talking, and it's going to stop right when it gets to the point where it should stop. So I would watch this and follow along with what the characters are saying. And after you do that, I want you to basically focus on what do you learn about Lysander and Hermia's relationship from their conversation, right? From those short 52 lines, right? From line 130 to line 182 of Act 1, Scene 1, what do you learn about Lysander's and Hermia's relationship from them talking together, right? Do they seem in love, right? Who seems more positive about their situation? Who seems more supportive? Or do you think their love isn't meant to be, that they're not really in love and they're just being dumb, right? So think of some answers to that, and I will share my answers shortly. So some of the stuff that I came up with is through their brief conversation together, Lysander and Hermia seem really in love, right? They even seem obsessed with each other. Like you wouldn't decide to run away with a girl or run away with someone you love if you didn't really love them, right? You wouldn't decide to run away from your family or everything in your life if you didn't really love them, right? So Lysander is willing to throw away everything for Hermia because he really loves her. And in this, Lysander is not quite as positive about their situation as Hermia. He's not as hopeful that they'll make it out, but he's still willing to try because he loves Hermia. Hermia is very hopeful about their situation because she has to be, right? What's her alternative? What's her plan B, right? Either marrying Demetrius, becoming a nun, or dying. She doesn't like any of those choices, so she has to go all in on running away with Lysander and marrying him. They love each other, and she thinks this is the right idea. Lysander and Hermia listen and care about one another, right? That's the key to success in a relationship is listening. So they have that part down. And Lysander and Hermia are so committed to each other, they're willing to leave Athens together, right? They're willing to run away together. And you don't really do that unless you really love that person, right? And we can clearly see that they really do love each other in this um, scene. And if you disagree with me, if you think Lysander and Hermia aren't really in love, I would love to hear your thoughts. Why? Message me on Schoology, go to the question board, or email me. I would love to hear your reasoning. Why? Because most of the students I've talked to so far think Lysander and Hermia are really in love. But remember, there's never a right or wrong answer. If you can explain it, then you may be right, right? Moving on, we're going to be focusing on the figurative language in the text. So in lines 132 to 135, let me pull this up for you. Right here, Lysander says, I me, for aught that I could ever read, could ever hereby tailor history, the course of true love never did run smooth, but either it was different in blood. So the figurative language in here, hopefully you spot it, it's this sentence. The course of true love never did run smooth. That is an example of a metaphor. Remember, a metaphor is comparing two things without using the words like or as. So what Lysander is comparing here by saying the course of true love never did run smooth is he's comparing love to basically a road or an obstacle course. And he's basically saying, hey, the road of love is never smooth, right? It's never going to be smooth. We're always going to face bumps, bruises, things like that. So in lines 132 to 135, there's a metaphor about how rough and tough love is, right? He's comparing love to a bumpy road, right? He's saying love isn't supposed to be smooth. There's always going to be bumps. There's always going to be holes that we have to go through. And that's fine. If it's meant to be, if we're truly in love, we'll get through all of that together, right? Next one is lines 143 to 145. So let me pull that up for you. There we go. So Lysander again says, oh, or if there was a sympathy in choice, war, death, or sickness did lay siege to it, making it momentary as a sound, swift as a shadow, short as any dream, brief as the lightning in the collied night, that in a spleen unfolds both heaven and earth. So hopefully, you know what figurative language that they're using in that one. It's very close to a metaphor, right? They're comparing two things, but they're using the words like or as, which means that is a simile, right? Simile is comparing two things and using the words like or as. So that's the difference between a simile and a metaphor is the use of the words like or as. So the simile right here is momentary as a sound, swift as a shadow, short as any dream, brief as the lightning in the collied night. Lysander in that one is basically just saying that love is very fast, love is very impulsive. He compares love to a sound, to how fast a shadow moves and how fast lightning lights up the sky, right? He's saying that love is fast and you have to grab onto it if you want it to work. You can't act, you can't think, you just have to act, right? Love is spontaneous. Love is as quick as a snap of a finger, right? So he's comparing all of that to how fast love is, right? And the last one, lines 172. Let me pull this up. Last one. By that which knitteth souls and prospers love. You may not get this one. This one is an example of personification. Remember, personification is giving human qualities or human traits or human actions to a inhuman thing. So in that one is comparing love and knitting, right? Knitting is an action that a human does. And remember, love is not a human. So it's giving human actions to a inhuman thing. So Hermia on that one is basically saying, hey, love is a force that weaves two people together. It knits two people together. It brings two people together and makes them one, right? And we're going to be seeing a lot of figurative language, mostly metaphors, similes, and personification. Throughout this play, there are going to be examples of hyperbole, but we're going to be getting into that in the next lesson, okay? Shakespeare uses a lot of figurative language to really show or emphasize certain points, right? So instead of saying, figurative language is really important because instead of just saying, like, you are really fast, you can say, you are like a cheetah. You can exactly show the reader how fast that person really is or emphasize it and exaggerate it a little bit, right? So Shakespeare is really just using this figurative language to show how tough love really is, how fast love is and how important love is in bringing two people together, right? So Shakespeare in this one really wanted to use figurative language to show that love isn't supposed to be easy, but when love is true and love is right, it can bring anything together and they can get through anything, right? And that's what Lysander and Hermia are doing. They're facing a lot of obstacles, right? Um, Hermia is in a lot of trouble, right? She either has to become a nun, marry a man she doesn't love, or die. But she decides to leave all that behind and run away with Lysander because she really loves him, right? So no matter how many obstacles they're facing, they're willing to go through it together and try to brave the storm and become stronger together, right? So I know this is a quick lesson. That's how the virtual recorded videos really are, because I'm not getting a lot of your feedback, so I'm not having to wait and then talk through what y'all are saying. But remember, just try to finish up those 2 discussion posts that I uploaded. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Right? If you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to help you out. Right? But other than that, that is it for this pre-recorded lesson video, and I will see you here next time for lesson 4. Bye.